All right, hello, you wonderful soul, and thanks very much for checking out this little rippity wrap-up, Season 1 of the What Was That Radio Conversation With series. I see, that's the thing, I haven't properly titled it in my mind before I hit record and just started blabbering at you. But the long story short is, What Was That Radio is now 2 years old. I started this and left commercial mainstream rock radio after a decade to push my passions to their limit and to save myself from starting to feel a sour taste to something that I love so much and I've chased and done for 3/4 of my life, which is perform and chase that dream of being on the radio, be on the radio, and looking above and beyond that. How can I keep growing to push myself as an individual, a musicologist, a massive nerd and lover of the art of music? How can I push all of those things that maybe weren't being given the right space or time to do so? It led me to leaving the commercial landscape to build What Was That Radio, a radio station that runs 24/7. I broadcast at least 3 times a week in between working at Quality Foods and stacking produce to make sure that this can grow shrewdly, sensibly, and smartly into a long-term goal. I know the work rate I put into things. I know the passion I bring to the table of what really fires me up and galvanizes my soul. And I further know that when you're starting a business, having watched my parents run their own business, lose their own business, work back to get a shelter again, to look after the family, to allow us to grow, I have an inkling of what it takes to be successful and to back yourself. And so by working at Quality Foods and the flexibility I get from my boss Dennis there to leave mid-shift, to come and have conversations with, to come and do radio shows is massive. Minimum wage is what I earn, but it's not about the money. It's about that fire in my soul. That gives me the foundation to shrewdly, to use that word again, continue to build What Was That Radio into a successful 50-year career. I have a plan as many years long as I am old at 35. And I will not push, I will not threaten the existence of this wonderful project. And the whole point of this video and this podcast, whether you're clicking into it via whatwasthatradio.com, whether that's by being involved in the patreon.com/whatwasthatradio situation, whichever which way you are consuming this, I'd like to say thank you for any singular moment, a handful of seconds to hours and hours of time you've given me and What Was That Radio in the last 24 months. If you listen back to the early parts of this podcast, which was live from my bachelor pad, right at the start of the pandemic and lockdowns, pushing myself to try new things, I thought, do you know what? I've always dreamt of being that sort of late night TV. Oh, the cat scared the life out of me as he's getting under his favorite blanket on the couch over there. You didn't need to scratch it so aggressively. It's only a 1-foot jump. You're a cat. You could jump 28. Anyways, you comfy? All right. He just likes to be under the blanket at this time of day, which is 28 degrees outside and sunny at 3 p.m. as I record this. Anyway, where was I before Theo got in me head there? Because there's so much I could go over. I'll come back to it. I'm sure I'll catch up with myself and my brain and the 3,000 thoughts that are just shooting off in different directions right now, because this is a radio station 24/7. I broadcast at least 3 times a week. It's a podcast that's been going for 2 years. I found the thought. Thank you. That's telekinesis, Kyle. It's a arts academy and foundation. I split all my earnings 50-50. Of the $30,000 that I've earned from around 150 wonderful souls across the last 24 months and 2 years, I've donated 22,500 of it back into the independent rock scene that galvanizes my soul and back into the mental health and the passions of the community that support me in the first place. My mum, my dad, some loving members and friends of the community. Why are you giving away more niche? Because I believe in the long run, it's going to showcase exactly what I'm trying to build here. It's not about posturing. It's not about being the best. It's not about being number one. It's about affecting change in that wonderful little community of wuzzers that we can carve out on this planet that is billions and billions and billions strong. I'm not interested in trying to be accepted as a human being anymore. I know my strengths. I love myself. And you listen back, to go back to my point, to the early parts of this podcast and those conversations with live from my bachelor pad, when I was thinking, do I need to leave to keep growing and pushing myself. I don't wish to check in, check out, and go stale. I don't wish to hold up someone else knowing how many ferociously are chasing a career in media. I'm not afraid to fail, and I'm still not afraid to fail. You hear in those early episodes, anger, disdain, confusion, as I was trying to stop this floaty what's going on John and ground him. I moved to Canada to find myself in a flurry of multiple personalities, to have that success in radio. And I've learned and grown up so much, it's unbelievable. But believable. Pardon me, that's Stuart. I'm going to have a rim shot for that. In just the 2 years alone, to learn how to become better at design, whether that's website, visual, audio production skills as well, whether that's improving my speaking, my conversing, which I've always been really, really proud of, how I can hold a conversation. But how can you work with introverts and extroverts and all in between, going day after day after day, not having weeks to prepare, and maybe you get 2 or 3 chats a year, to have all of these 80 conversations to look back on. And there are moments when I go back and squirm. Oh my gosh, did I say that? I'm using my guest as a counselor. But that's the fine line, you see, that I believe in, that you need to share your soul to get some context back, to get a connection and have a conversation back. Because I firmly believe, and I've said it multiple times in interviews and conversations, that too many believe by the proxy of the role they have in the industry, they deserve the answer for the question they ask. BS to me. It's the energy you create around that performer. It's the safety net you give them in feeling they're safe to share, and it's respected. And that's not to say I'm better than anyone else. That is just how I approach it. That's my old school belief in conversations with artists. And with anyone, quite frankly. It's just that I get to speak with rock and rollers all the time. The Arts Academy has helped people learn musical instruments, has helped people learn production, like Chance, for example, comes to mind. 2 or 3 that have been backed in the first year. A couple of those 3 don't want to be known publicly, and that's okay. But when you invest $7 a month or $84 a year, you might get back hundreds of dollars worth in prizing, or in, I mean, if you go to the website, whatwasthatradio.com/subscribe, scroll down, you'll see examples of where this money's gone in terms of bands, people, and more. I am unbelievably proud of all that have helped this journey along the way so far. Jody and Harley, love of my life is Jody, Harley, our 8-year-old son, allowing me in this house. We went from the bachelor pad to the cupboard in the bedroom to the living room. And the flexibility they give me to make these shows, to do whether it's what was 5 every Sunday, a deep dive video around an hour long, much like sort of a stream for patrons where I go over my 5 favorite songs of the week, whether it's what was that and the song of the week, where every Wednesday for patrons as well and subscribers I release a video deep diving passionately that artist or that band. It might be, again, 35 minutes to an hour in length, to the guaranteed 3 radio shows, to working full-time at Quality Foods, the balance that I have from those I love in our family, in our home, to those at my work family are paramount and crucial. And to the flexibility of all of you that have listened along or watched along or however which way you've connected with What Was That Radio, the patience to allow and be a part of as I go through all this growth and change, tweaking this and that every day, every moment. Oh, this could be better, that could be better, this could be rearranged, that could be redone. It's exhilarating. And 2 years in, so close to these new apps that are going to change everything. A one-stop shop. A massive thank you to Radio Co. for their belief in what I'm doing, for the early access to these new apps, and for being a part of the design process with them to make sure that any wuzzers that fall into our world on the app have everything they need at their fingertips. It will not just be simply a play, last 20 songs played, set an alarm. It will be everything. Listen to podcasts, watch podcasts, enter contests if you're a subscriber, because, and add a note there, subscribers get to win contests because they in turn fund me buying Z items from performers around the world in the first place. It's only fair it's that way. I wish to reward those that stand and support me financially. That's why the contest, as of 2 or 3 months ago, contesting rather, has only been allowed for subscribing wuzzers and Patreon wuzzers, whether through PayPal or through Patreon. Again, all the details of whatwasthatradio.com/subscribe if you're interested. Some of my favorite conversations the last year. Kim Churchill, it was so good to see him. And that was one of the only conversations filmed in person at the Capitol Ballroom and released just a few weeks ago in July of 2022. That was amazing catching up with him. Standards and Marcus in his van on tour. What a mathematician of math rock on guitar. Stuck on Planet Earth out of Ontario. Those three are studs, extremely talented. They've been a band for over 15 years. And the support they've given me online has led to the most watched and the most liked and the most commented on and interacted with video of the entire podcast. Over 8,000 people have interacted with that conversation alone in the last 24 months of all of them together. But really, it's only been out for, at this point, 8 weeks. Guys. Thank you to Spielberg's in Norway, to Spare Parts for Broken Hearts and Sarah down in California, to my dear friend Graham of Tokyo Police Club and Girlfriend Material, to Wine Lips in Toronto as well, Like a Motorcycle in Halifax, Canada, Bonnie Fraser of Stand Atlantic out of Australia, Justin Ben Lolo, What a Stud of Broken Love out of Ontario, Ben of Billy Talent, Alan Cross, radio legend. I'm feeling like I am, and I know I am now. I'm going through the entire list. Yes. To Eric Burton of Black Pumas, to Eric Owen of Black Pistol Fire, to Bexley, to Calva Louise, to Electric Enemy, Sleep Shake. I could go through all of them. Jack of Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, Jasmine from Mother, Jasmine, the Human Kebab of USS, the Lazy Eyes, those lads out of Australia, Low Lives from LA, but a bit of England, Kid Capici, Loser. I'm going through all of them. So I will stop, but you can dive into more at whatwasthatradio.com/podcast. I am just so excited. And it's imperative to give a massive nod and thank you to Mike Battle, one of my best friends, and to Poor Sport, the band that he drums in, for allowing their use of a song that I think I've told you the title, but I'm not sure if it's a confirmed title, but I've had it, that you've heard instrumentally at the start and end of all of these podcasts. To Mike for his editing of these podcasts. I know that we have a pretty loose way of doing it, which is don't remove really very much at all. Just clean it up. Because I believe, and this is my closing point, I believe that the best way we get to know people is by spending time with them, and is by not being given a slightly different portrayed perception of the reality of who they are, how they operate, how they move forward. That's why there's barely any editing whatsoever when it comes to the podcast. And here on, if you're watching on YouTube, there's no editing. When the chat's done, I record an intro, an extra, and I throw it on, and that's it. Whatever happens, happens. We learn from the mistakes. We learn from the awkward moments. And there's been a lot. There's been a lot of great moments too. But I won't ever hide who I am from you. Sorry, I could sense a rhyme coming and I had to put the reverb on. All right. When will season 2 of the What Was That Radio, A Conversation With podcast come back? Quite frankly, I don't have a firm date for you. I was thinking maybe December time, but I'm leaning towards January of 2023. Why? Because it's imperative that those that support me via patreon.com/whatwasthatradio get that perk. Because in the last 4 or 5 weeks here, the podcast 15-week delay is caught up because they've slowed down, because I've been working my arse off for quality foods, and because conversations with are harder to garner. All these bands are back out on the road doing their thing. And that is not a complaint or a bad thing. It's just the context and detail around why it slowed down a bit. So I've got 50 chats lined up between now and the end of the year. If you're a paying subscriber and supporter of What Was That Radio, you're going to be a part of them. But for those of you that listen to this without being involved in that Patreon subscriber and Discord club, so to speak, it's looking like January next year, the first Monday and Tuesday of the month, the return of A Conversation With on Monday and What Was Short on Tuesday. Boom. I think Harley and Jody just got back from them being out and about and working today, so that's good timing. And whatever you're doing with the rest of your day, and as always, please look after yourself. And I hope there's some fun and smiles involved in the rest of your day as well, because we've got to cherish that positive. Thank you so much for your support so far. And for now, cheerio.